Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the fourth round of the iRacing Race at Home Championship. We've been facing some technical difficulties, but we are back and we are ready for the first round of the first heat of this fourth round here at Virginia Tech Raceway. We have Kevin Samarajiva leading the way into turn one. It's a very tight first corner here at Virginia Tech, and there's contact immediately as Kevin Samarajiva maybe misjudging his braking point just a little bit too much, and there is contact in the background, and it looks to be Brian Pereira who's had a bit of an issue there at the back of the grid. However, Angelo Senaratna holding station at the front ahead of Denan Abesekera, followed by Kevin Samarajiva, Hayam Fazal. We have Kavin Rajapaksa, Tehan Eranga, followed by Savirat Naika and Shyama Mendes in the background. But it looked like a huge crash for Brian Pereira, who is in the pits at the moment. There's also a crash for Rian Atapatu. Unfortunate for Rian. And Shyama Mendes rounding out the top 7 as it stands. Sorry, we have Savirat Naika, who's actually had a moment as well. He is missing a rear wing at the same time. Everybody having a bit of a scruffy first lap here at Virginia Tech. However, this is just the first heat of this weekend. But Kevin Samarajiva falling all the way back to 7th. Kevin has had a little bit of a spin here. The pole sitter has dropped from 1st to 8th on the first lap alone. But we're starting to see a bit of segregation here at the front. We have Angelo Senaratna leading at the front, and there is contact behind. There is a major incident behind between Kavin Rajapaksa, and I believe that might be Ayam Fazal. Savirat Naika catching up to this pair of drivers, all of them missing rear wings. Nobody wants to keep their rear wings up on this first lap, as Kavin Rajapaksa looking like he might cause another incident here. We are not certain of what took place in that first incident. However, at the moment there are only 4 drivers currently on the lead lap with no damage whatsoever. We have the likes of Angelo Senaratna leading Denan Abesekera, followed by Tehan Eranga and Shyama Mendes. Senaratna leads the way here in Virginia. The gaps are reasonably close. It's about a half a second gap between each of the pairs here in the top 4. Angelo, the race winner in yesterday's ACC round, leading the way once again. Can he... the Paul Ricard race yesterday on ACC, Angelo Senaratna was able to blitz his way through in the Aston Martin to take victory. However, this top 4 is starting to converge on themselves. Tehan Eranga has closed that gap to Denan to just around the second mark from 1.5 seconds at the start of this lap. This race could still yet get very interesting. It seems like the top 4 are on their own here at the front, here at Virginia Tech. Angelo Senaratna somewhat going defensive for this next right hand square kink. Will they keep it clean? It is a clean bit of racing between Denan and Brian, but Denan will get the inside line for the next left-hander, but it will soon become the long right-hander for the final corner. This is becoming a really close affair between the whole top 4 as Shyama Mendes makes a move on Tehan Eranga for P3 in this first sprint heat. But it's Angelo Senaratna and Denan Abesekera going side by side into turn 1. Keeping their noses clean at the start of the race. They're still continuing to battle without any contact whatsoever. Shyama Mendes having a look down the inside of Denan Abesekera. It's almost 3 wide in the first sector here at Virginia Tech. It's close stuff. Angelo Senaratna causing the Angelo train at the moment. A whole train of cars here for the top 4. Angelo knows that he may not have the pace to run away with this at the moment, but he's keeping them behind with some good defensive moves, as Denan is now going to come under severe pressure from Shyama Mendes and from Tehan Eranga in 4th. So here we are. It's still close as Shyama Mendes looks for a move on Denan Abesekera, although this is technically a straight overtaking opportunity, this long windy straight with multiple S-like section corners can always catch out even the best of the best. As Denon Abesekra slows things down all the way, with Angelo slowing things down even more. Denon is now right on the tail of Angelo. Shamal is right on the tail of Denon as well. It's 3/10 to 2/10 covering each of these drivers on this ultra long back straight here at Virginia Tech. Who will be able to get the move done early on? Angelo covering the inside line. There will be a left kink before a hard braking third gear corner. Will Denon go down the inside? He doesn't. As things are incredibly close here on just the third lap. Now back onto the main straight. Angelo Senaratna comes around to start the fourth lap. Denon in the wheel tracks of Angelo Senaratna. Will he look for a move down the inside into the first hairpin? Shawn Mendes goes for a move but has a big tank slapper on the way in. Just about catches it and avoids any serious collisions. This is exactly what Angelo Senaratna will want. He will want the rest of the top four to battle amongst themselves to give himself a chance at pulling away. Shawn Mendes taking a very wide line. Will he look to maybe switch back Denon through this sector? This sequence of slow downforce heavy corners. Angelo just looks to maybe get a little bit of a gap on Denon heading onto this little mini sequence of straights and corners. As Denon now has to go defensive against Shawn Mendes. This is an incredible battle starting to brew here at Virginia. What a race for just the first sprint race. Unfortunate that there were so many collisions in the first sector alone at this incredibly tough circuit. Hard on your traction, traction capabilities, tough on your downforce capabilities, being able to brake just in time for these heavy braking zones. Denon is very close this time around. He's only 2/10 behind Angelo. Will he look for a move? He'll go to the inside for this first kink left, straight into a hard braking zone into the right hand after the straight. Very close, almost wheel banging down the back straight. Shawn Mendes holds behind on the slipstream of Angelo Senaratna. Denon Abesekra takes the lead here at Virginia. In the first heat, he seemed to have more pace, and now can he use that pace to pull away from Angelo Senaratna? Shawn Mendes will now look to maybe get a move on Angelo as well. Onto the main straight. Shamal is already alongside Angelo Senaratna. Angelo cutting across just to scare Shawn Mendes off his inside. Will Shamal maybe be able to take the move down the inside into turn one? It's exactly what he's done. He's taken the move and Angelo has run wide. Angelo loses a place to Tehaneranga as well. And this battle, the top four battle, will now resume. Top four battle will resume with Denon Abesekra in P1, followed by Shawn Mendes close behind. Angelo, with that one little mistake, has dropped all the way back to fourth place. Will he be able to maybe pull back? Maybe build something back to catch up to the top three once again? However, it is Denon Abesekra out front, holding station ahead of Shawn Mendes. Shawn Mendes coming into this race, championship rivals with Brian Pereira. And Tehaneranga also in the background, closing in. He's another championship rival here, locking up, but can Denon Abesekra hold firm and take his first race win of this iRacing season? Shawn Mendes is close on the tail of Denon Abesekra. Will he look for a move? Denon holds the inside of the circuit. He's left the right side open. This is the inside line for the next. After this left hand kink, it will be a hard braking right hander. Shawn Mendes takes the lead here at Virginia Tech. He leads the first sprint race of this iRacing weekend. And it looks likely that Shawn might just run away with this now. Our pole sit. Oh, Denon Abesekra has had a spin. He has spun out from P2. He was pushing and pushing to try and keep that second place and keep up with Shawn. It's all gone to waste. Denon Abesekra falls back to P4 on the road. As long as he can hold his position, he'll be able to keep a P4 finish. It's highly unfortunate stuff for Denabe Sekra, but the race is just somewhat neutralized now with Shama Mendes quite possibly the fastest man on track right now, apart from maybe Brian Pereira. Shamal is now able to pull away and just utilize that hot lap pace to pull away here in this first sprint race. He will be catching up with back markers. I believe he is catching up with Kevan Samarajiva down the road. Brian Pereira though, showcasing his immense speed, 1.2 seconds faster than Shama Mendes on that last lap. However, Shama Mendes was providing us with a phenomenal overtaking move on Denabe Sekra last lap, so it is understandable. Right back with Shama Mendes. The gaps have all somewhat opened up here with a little bit of an incident, I believe, further back for Kevan Samarajiva. Kevan has let all the leading cars through. He does have significant front wing damage. I believe he has had a off-road excursion somewhere around the circuit. Our Sri Lanka karting circuit kart fight senior intermediate championship leader going into the final race. As we see in the background, a big spin for Kavin Rajapaksa. Big moment here between Kavin Rajapaksa and Kevan Samarajiva, as Kevan is Kavin's closest competition at the moment. But there is a close battle brewing up ahead here between Tehan Aranga and Angelo Senaratne. Tehan has made a mistake somewhere along the circuit, as Angelo has now been able to get back past Tehan. So we seem to have missed this overtake, but to my understanding, Tehan must have surely made a mistake somewhere. Our ACC Championship leader at the moment, looking to be the iRacing Championship leader as well. However, Shama Mendes is not making that task any easier out front. He's already 8.3 seconds ahead of these two. Tehan Aranga looks down the inside of Angelo Senaratne, a little bit of a lockup, but now we head on to the back straight. Tehan Aranga is around 6/10 behind Angelo Senaratne. Will he be able to force an error out of Angelo and maybe go for a late lunge somewhere along the circuit, maybe after the quick little kink left into the sharp 90-degree right-hander? Angelo Senaratne did so well to defend for the first 4 laps of the race. He defended off the rest of the top 3. It's all fallen away for Denabe Sekra, who now sits in P4 around 6.8 seconds away. But Shama Mendes is just pulling out, eking out that gap out front. He now sets the fastest lap of the race with a 148.272. 2/10 faster than Brian Pereira's 148.409, and Shama Mendes actually sets a new fastest lap of a 148.1. We are already only 2/10 away from from qualifying pole position lap times. Shamal is entering a new league right now. 11 seconds clear after just leading the race for around 3 to 4 laps is insane. But Tehan Aranga now closing up onto the back of Angelo Senaratne. You'd expect that he would be all over Angelo Senaratne coming into this long back straight. Will Angelo be able to hold on to P2 in the sprint race and take a huge haul of 7 points going into the second consolation race? We head on to the short straight, as you may call it, but with a whole bunch of little kinks left and right, very reminiscent of the Zandvoort F1 circuit. Will he be able to hold off the fast upcoming Tehan Aranga? Tehan makes a little bit of a look down the inside, lets Angelo Senaratne know he's there. Onto the back straight, Tehan has a big snap up oversteer, trying to apply the power as soon as possible. He's 5/10 away from Angelo now, and that gap might not reduce now with the slight lack of momentum coming out of that right-hander. head into the heavy braking zone. There seems to be an incident for competitor number 6. It seems to be an incident for I am further back. Sorry, yes, for I am further back. He seems to have had a little bit of a spin with Brian Pereira. Although he was somersaulting his way out of contention on lap 1 of the race, he has now found himself back up in P6, collecting as many points as he can to keep himself somewhat stable in the championship fight. And it's a bit of a quiet race for Sami Ratnayaka, who also sustained rear wing damage early on in the race. He sits P5 as there is a move from Tehanaranga. We seem to have missed that move from Tehanaranga down the inside of Angelo Senaratne, potentially into turn 1. And Angelo's hard-fought defense has now come to an end as we seem to be on the final lap of the race. 9 laps is all we'll get here at Virginia Tech, as it seems to be an off-track excursion for Tehanaranga. We could hear the grass being sprayed up as now it's side by side between Angelo and Tehan. Angelo gets back ahead of Tehan. It's the Constantino effect here. Shabo Mendes out front, extending that gap to 15 seconds now. He's running 3 seconds a lap quicker than these two. And he's set the new fastest lap of a 1:48.122. But we are on the final lap of this first sprint race here at Virginia Tech. Who will get P2? Tehan gets a monstrous run out of the kink right onto the back straight. He's 2 tenths behind Angelo. Will he look for a lunge? Will Angelo defend the inside line? He does just that, forces Tehan to the outside. Tehan will have the kink, the inside line to the kink left here, but will he be able to make the move around the outside? He's ahead of Angelo Senaratne. He gets the place of Angelo Senaratne on the final lap of this sprint race. We will now ride on board with Shama Mendes, who crosses the line to win the first sprint heat here at Virginia Tech. Angelo Senaratne has just lost out on the final lap to Tehanaranga, who will take P2 on the road, just ahead of Angelo Senaratne, who finishes off in P4. We have Denanabe Sekara, who was leading the race at one point, but just had a little lapse in judgment, spun out from contention. So we have Kevan Samarajiva coming through to finish the race in 9th, followed by a very topsy-turvy Kavin Rajapaksa, finishing off in 8th, who I believe will start the reverse grid from pole position. And then we have Sami Ratnayaka in a distant 5th place, doing all he could after having rear wing damage in the first race. He comes through to finish P5 on the road, with Brian Pereira another distant 37 seconds behind. Rian Atapatu has retired from this race with sustaining too much damage on the opening couple laps. Brian Pereira is coming through to maybe not be the happiest with the result at the moment, because he was taken out in the first lap. It is still yet to be seen just how that first lap collision unfolded, but nonetheless, Brian Pereira trying to get as many points back in comparison to Shama Mendes. I believe he will take 3 points away from this first sprint heat by finishing in P6. A decent recovery drive from Angelo Senaratne. I am Fazal with a little bit of a spin later on in the race. He also sustained damage after a collision with Kavin Rajapaksa early on in the race. He will come home in P7, and he will start the consolation race on the front row alongside Kavin Rajapaksa. So we see the grid lining up for race 2 at Virginia Tech Raceway. Brian Pereira, albeit having struggling with the first race, will now start P3. However, he has 2 pretty quick drivers in front of him in the form of Kavin Rajapaksa, who's still yet to find his feet here in this championship, and I am Fazal making his debut. Kavin Rajapaksa has actually not made the grid for this start. It will be Fazal leading the way into turn 1. Will Brian Pereira be able to make a move down the inside? Brian Pereira does just that. There is contact between and Brian. Bit of a lapse in judgment by Brian Pereira. He seemed to have just gone too deep into turn 1, and there's severe contact with Fazal. That is two incredibly strong drivers out of the running into just the first corner of the race. And Savi Ratnayaka suddenly finds himself leading the race after starting P4. We have a spin from Rian Atapatu. He spun down to around P7. Savi Ratnayaka leads Denan Abisekra, and once again Shaman Mendes finds himself in P3 with Tehan Eranga now in P4. Angelo Senaratne seems to have got caught out in an incident as well, but once again the top 4 have flown away with a similar top 4 to the last race, but only difference being Savi Ratnayaka has taken over Angelo Senaratne's place at the lead of the race. Kevan Samarjiva has kept his nose clean, but he seems to have just spun out just as I say that. Once again the commentator's curse is struck again. Kevan Samarjiva having a spin off just as I mentioned his name. Brian Pereira, even with all that contact, seems to have a working, functioning car. He must still have damages. There's a move by Denan Abisekra around the outside of Savi Ratnayaka. Shaman Mendes making a lapse in judgment, under braking behind Savi. Will he lose a place to Tehan Eranga? It just looks like Tehan might be slowing off the gas just to let Shaman Mendes follow through in the lead in P3. I feel like this might be some gamesmanship from Tehan Eranga, just letting Shaman Mendes stay in third, letting Shaman Mendes tackle Savi Ratnayaka and Denan Abisekra. But it is Denan. It's take 2 for Denan. Will he be able to keep the lead this time round? So we return back with Savi Ratnayaka trying to apply the pressure on Denan Abisekra. However, he now has the resurgent Shaman Mendes looking to make a clean sweep here in Virginia Tech. Looking to take yet another win ahead of his championship rival Brian Pereira, who is struggling yet again. He's in P6 and it looks like he's had another incident. The top 4 once again close to one another. This is becoming a bit of a trend here at Virginia. The top 4 fighting amongst themselves. There's a bit of an incident behind for Kevan Samarjiva, once again spinning off, warming up his tires a little bit, doing some donuts in the middle of the circuit. But here we go with Savi Ratnayaka trying to get the lead back from Denan Abisekra. Denan has not been able to pull away as he usually does. Will he be able to shake off the pressure of Savi Ratnayaka climbing the curb there? That was close stuff, and it will compromise his exit onto the main straight as Shaman Mendes takes P2 back from Savi Ratnayaka. Has Savi sustained just a little bit of damage there from hopping the curb, because he loses P3 to Tehan Eranga. It looks like Savi might have sustained some damage there. He is slowing down significantly. What a shame for Savi Ratnayaka. It was just a small hop over a curb, which seems to have just given him a bit too much damage. However, it is Denan Abisekra leading the way once again. Can we see Denan Abisekra taking the race win here? We're heading on to the short little straight with major kinks left and right. It will be a daredevilish place to make a move here in this windy section of the circuit. However, never discount Shaman Mendes' talent and potential to make a move at any part of the circuit. The top runners are slowly starting to catch up with the lap car of Fazal as it's a late braking move by Shaman Mendes, but he manages to hold firm and stay behind Denan Abisekra. But that gap is close. Denan is weaving to the inside. One defensive move is all it took. It was a Clean move by Denon, but with that slipstream, an extra slingshot effect for Shawn Mendes. Shawn Mendes seems to have taken the lead off the second sprint race here at Virginia Tech. Can Denon make a move back down the inside? He cannot. It looks like Shawn Mendes has just taken the lead off the second race, and he is making it back-to-back race wins at the moment, but we don't know what's yet to come. Does Denon Abesekra have more pace in the bag? Does Tehan Eranga have more pace in the bag to show Shawn Mendes? We have a small move further back between Brian Pereira and Kevin Samarajiva. This should get very interesting. This should be a very interesting battle here. Kevin Samarajiva has somehow found himself in P5. Kudos to him. He's managing to keep the mighty Brian Pereira behind, but for how much longer can he do so? Can he do so without contact here? As Brian Pereira did have a rich history from both ACC and iRacing. Will Brian be able to get past Kevin Samarajiva? Kevin is weaving just a little bit, but taking back the racing line into turn 1. He just needs to keep his focus and not make any sort of errors, but Brian Pereira makes a block pass down the inside. Kevin not looking to make any sort of radical moves. Smart moves by Kevin and Brian both. As we move further up the grid, it's very close between Tehan Eranga and Denon Abesekra. Denon still managing to hold on to P2, but you can see there is a significant difference in performance at the moment, as Tehan seems to just have a little edge on Denon Abesekra. The gap is 3/10 now. The magical gap from what I've seen so far is 2/10 to be able to take the lead comfortably into the first kink left. Will Tehan be able to take the move? Oh, it's a late defensive move from Denon Abesekra, which might not be taken very well by Tehan Eranga. It looked like Tehan was just getting that slingshot through with the slipstream to maybe make a move down the inside. However, Denon chopping across and maybe a little bit too aggressively holding station ahead of Tehan Eranga as we head on to the 5th lap of this sprint heat. Shawn Mendes leads the way and sets a new fastest lap of a 149.849, quickly changed into a 148.234. Tehan Eranga is now trying everything in the handbook to try and get past Denon Abesekra. He doesn't go for a move like Brian just did on Kevin Samarajiva, but all this battling is helping Savi Ratnayaka, a limping Savi Ratnayaka, to maybe close the gap back and fight for a potential podium here. Tehan just sensibly biding his time to maybe try and get Denon Abesekra once again on the long back straight. Drivers have to be sensible. Denon having just a little bit of an uncomfortable chop left, or chop right should I say, on Tehan Eranga. Maybe caught Tehan by surprise. But all these drivers have some significant respect for one another. They've raced with each other. Many of these drivers have raced with each other on both ACC and iRacing platforms. And they know just how interesting the racing can get, as we saw from race 1 and race 2, just how close the top 4 were battling, and with clean battling maneuvers. As here we go. 3/10 once again. Tehan Eranga closing in with the slipstream. Closing in on this incredibly long straight. This time Denon defends the inside properly. Holds station on the inside. Will he brake later than Tehan Eranga? Will Tehan Eranga go for a switchback? Oh, and there is minor contact, but all's fair and all clean moves by both Tehan and Denon. But all this is helping Savi Ratnayaka close back in and potentially join this battle for second place. We enter the 6th lap of the race. Tehan Eranga, will he look for a move around the outside into turn 1? Nothing doing there, but he might be able to just get a switchback move on Denon. No, Denon runs it just wide enough without touching the outside grass, and he manages to keep that position. But all the while, Savi Ratnayaka, biding his time, has pulled it back from P4. He's now only 6/10 away from Tehan Eranga, but these two just seem to pull away from Savi in this first sector of Virginia Tech. Tehaneranga is significantly closer to Denon. He might even go for a move in this sector alone. We haven't seen a proper move in this sector as of yet. Will we see our first move? There is smoke. The cars are bottoming out through this winding sector. Will Tehan go for a move down the inside into the long right-hander? He doesn't go for one yet, but he just looks to line himself up perfectly for this back straight. What is the gap? The gap is 4/10. It might just be a little too much behind Denon Abesekra, but that gap is closing. 3/10. Where is the magic 2/10? 2/10 seems to be the magic gap where Slipstream really gets into its best effect. Here we go, 2/10 behind. In the Slipstream, will he go for a move? It just looks like he's a bit too far behind this lap round to even get alongside. But Savi Ratnaik, oh, there's a lock up from Denon Abesekra. Denon just about struggles to slow the car down, but he is able to keep P2. But once again, this battling has allowed Savi Ratnaik to close right up to Tehaneranga. Savi is now only 4/10 behind Tehan. Tehan must be getting incredibly impatient behind Denon Abesekra. Will he look for a move into turn 1? Denon might have to go defensive once again. He's doing just that. He's forcing Tehaneranga around the outside. What will Savi Ratnaik do in all this? Savi is looking down the inside of Tehaneranga. He is close. Tehan needs to both look ahead and look in his mirrors, as Savi right on Tehan's tail now. But once again, through this sector, it just looks like Savi might be going down the inside. Savi Ratnaik takes P3 in this consolation race. He ruins the short sprint attack from Tehaneranga, and now it's Savi Ratnaik looking to take back P2. Look at the resurgent pace from Savi Ratnaik. Will it be the first move? Oh, here there's contact between Savi and Denon. There's contact with Tehaneranga as well. Tehan might have been able to keep going. Savi also keeps going, but Denon is the big loser out of all of this. We need to have a look back at that incident and just see what took place there. Once again, Denon Abesekra losing out from a top 4 battle. And this time, will he be able to even keep this 4th place with Brian Pereira closing up? We focus back here on Savi Ratnaik and Tehaneranga. Both parties must be suffering from damage, as it seems like Savi, even in the slipstream, is losing time on the straights. Savi getting a big whack to the side of his car and to the front of his car. It looks like Savi just doesn't have the straight line speed to challenge Tehaneranga. It was just sideways contact between Savi and Tehan, which really, sorry, should I say Savi and Denon, which really caused that issue. I was just saying that we haven't seen a move through those kinks right and left, and this might just be why. It was a significant collision, just a Constantino effect between all three drivers. But all the while, this is allowing Shaman Mendes to just check out front. There seems to be a small incident for Iham Fazal out front, as he has just had a little bit of a spin. Savi Ratnaik seems to really be struggling with that car, though. At this point, his main goal would just be to limp home in P3, because this man, Brian Pereira, 17 seconds away. He's had a bit of a scrappy race as well, but Brian Pereira will be able to count his lucky stars that the cars in front have once again had issues, as he's looking good to start the feature race from 4th on the grid. Denon Abesekra is really struggling now. He is really struggling, as it looks like he's just come out of the pits, actually. Possibly coming out from the pits after repairing his car. He is now right on the tail of Angelo Senaratna, who finished P3 in race 1. He's now P5 after, I presume, first lap incidents. However, we look back to see Savi Ratnaik closing in on Tehaneranga, not making too much of an impression. We'll focus now on this battle. We have a battle between Angelo Senaratna and Denon Abesekra. Denon now with a brand new car, fixed his rear wing, fixed his front wing damage. Brian knows what's coming. Brian has been struggling a little bit with pace this weekend. Denon, on the other hand, has had the pace, but has just been really unlucky, just being involved in numerous incidents so far. This time round, it has dropped him out of the top 4 and is now in P6. However, can he secure himself a good run onto this back straight. He has done just that. He is 4 tenths behind Brian, 3 tenths behind Brian, sorry, should I say Angelo. This looks to be a block pass for Denan Abesekra as the drivers will head on to the final lap of the race. Shamal Mendes is on his final lap, or should I say the penultimate lap of the race. Denan Abesekra moves to the outside. Will he get the move into the hairpin? No, Angelo Senaratna holds the inside, but will Denan Abesekra be able to switch back into this next little complex? He's not able to do so. He might just hold off and try and make the move into turn 1. Very, very fine line from Denan Abesekra. But he's got a decently good run. He might just be a little bit too far behind Angelo Senaratna into turn 1. He could potentially go for the dive bomb move that we saw from Brian Pereira earlier on in the race. And so at the moment, it looks likely to be a Shamal Mendes back-to-back win. I do not want to put out the commentator's curse on him once again, but it's looking good for Shamal Mendes. As we will ride on board with Shamal Mendes as we just wait to see whether this will be the last lap of the race for Shamal. The time has ticked down to 0, so we might be seeing Shamal crossing the line to finish off the race. And it is just that. He weaves across the finish line to win back-to-back races, and Shamal Mendes will begin the feature race from the front of the grid. Best place to start the race. These two are engrossed in a titanic battle at the moment. Denan Abesekra closing in on Angelo Senaratna, but we have to quickly focus to the front of the grid. Tehan Eranga will finish P2 ahead of Sabi Ratnaika. Brian Pereira following in close pursuit in 4th place, but we file back to this battle between Denan and Angelo. Will Denan be able to make the move on the final lap of the race and steal P5 from Angelo Senaratna? They're side by side, heading into the heavy hairpin braking zone. It looks like Denan Abesekra has just about got the place on the final lap of the race. Through the final couple of corners, will he be able to hold off ahead of Angelo Senaratna? Angelo getting very close on the run up to the line. Will Angelo be able to make it a photo finish here across the line? Oh, it looks very close, but Denan Abesekra just about gets the place. Wow, that was close. That was very close. I expected Angelo to maybe move to the outside and go for the move, but nothing doing. And so Angelo Senaratna will finish P6, Kevan Samarjiva in a distant P7. The commentator's curse, or cameraman's curse, should I say, once again striking as it just about panned the camera to him spinning off from P5. And so he will collect points regardless, but unlike the previous 2 races, it will not be a reverse grid for the feature race. It will be the finishing order of this consolation race that will depict the grid for the feature race. And so Kevan Samarjiva will finish off in P7 ahead of Iham Fazal in P8, should I say. And now I believe we will have a 5-minute window to allow the drivers to just regroup themselves. And we will join you back in 5 minutes to see the drivers take action in the feature race. so we return back to the action in severe anticipation. Saviratnayaka starts P3 behind Tehanaranga in P2. Shyama Mendes once again leading the way from the front in pole position. He has 33 seconds to hopefully return to his sim rig and start the race from P1. We had some issues in the consolation race with some drivers not actually joining the race in time, but it looks like we have everybody on the grid at the moment, and so we go to 5 red lights for this race start. The feature race is underway and it's a great start from Shyama Mendes. Everybody else converges behind as there is a lot of chopping across currently taking place in the back. There is contact with Brian Pereira once again. Oh, once again Brian Pereira just spinning out with Rian Atapatu involved in this as well. However, it looks to be just the two of them, and looks like Brian has been able to get away with it without sustaining too much serious damage, as Kevin Samarjiva is off. He is off, just avoiding the barriers, and just avoids Brian Pereira coming back onto the track. But we ride on board with the rest of the drivers. Saviratnayaka has been able to jump Tehanaranga and Denan Abhisekara has also been able to jump Tehanaranga from 3rd and 5th. Denan and Savi have actually jumped up to 2nd and 3rd, with Denan now piling the pressure on Saviratnayaka. Further back we have Angelo Senaratna coming under pressure from I am Fazal. It's still the first lap, everyone's going to be taking things a little bit more calmer, but nonetheless everyone wants to be in as good a position as possible coming onto this back straight. Kevin Samarjiva with yet another incident. He has spun out and potentially sustained some serious damages. Yes, Kevin Samarjiva has clobbered the barrier, but we ride back with the battles up front. We have Denan Abhisekara going for a move on Saviratnayaka. He thinks better of it and he hangs back for the time being. Angelo Senaratna also holds station ahead of I Am Fazal, but out front Shyama Mendes has pulled out a gap of a whopping 3.3 seconds on this first lap alone, as there is a pit stop from Tehanaranga on the first lap. Is he going for the alternative strategy? I believe Brian Pereira follows him into the pits. Some drivers committing an alternate strategy in this race, as we see Denan Abhisekara potentially look for a move down the inside. So does Iham. There looks to be an incident behind for Kevin Samarjiva. Kevin having at wars right now. He is struggling to get going, but there are a bunch of pit stops taking place. However, all these pit stops will soon come into effect later on in the race after everybody makes their crucial pit stop. I don't believe it is mandatory for a pit stop to be made, but unless the drivers can somehow manage to fuel and tires all the way, which is highly unlikely, pit stops are nothing uncommon, as Denan Abhisekara gets past Savi, who's just had a poor run. There's a big crash. A high-speed crash between Angelo and Savi, and what a piece of driving from I Am Fazal to avoid the huge high-speed crash between the two RHC Racing teammates. And somehow they've actually been able to return to the track with hopefully minimal damage, and they're still right next to each other, but oh, this is quite messy driving between Angelo and Savi. It was once again a moment of just sideways contact through the fast windy sector here at Virginia Tech. Savi's now going for a move on Angelo Senaratna. It is yet to be seen just whose fault that was, or whether it was just a racing incident, but it looks like Saviratnayaka has taken the place of Angelo Senaratna down the back straight. So yes, it is a move for P4 for Saviratnayaka. Somewhat damage control, but it has somewhat taken away from the close battle we were preparing ourselves to see, as here is Shyama Mendes catching up with Kevin Samarjiva. Kevin being lapped on here on the 3rd lap of the race, but we wait to see if he will get out of the way of the leading cars promptly. So we hope Kevin does not go to block Shyama too much, as Kevin rightfully gets out of the way of the leading cars. It's a good improvement from what we saw back in a few rounds back. Hopefully Kevin can utilize the pace of Shaman Mendes and maybe follow Shaman Mendes through and maybe learn some new lines from Shaman. Who else would be better to see these lines than Shaman Mendes himself, the man leading the way, coming on to, as I said, that Kevin Samrajiva just taking a bit of an off-road excursion onto the grass, managing to catch it. Kudos to him, he was able to catch it on the grass, kicking up yet more gravel. And so just on the second lap of the race alone, the gaps around the field have opened up significantly. Not a single gap under 3 seconds at the moment. However, everybody in this race, provided they finish, will be able to receive points for their race finish, as there are under 10 drivers currently on the grid today. The entirety of the top 10 will be obtaining points in regards to the F1 style point system that this championship has. However, everybody has somewhat started to ease off. Denan Abesekra, as fast as he might be this weekend, he's struggling to keep up with the severe pace of Shaman Mendes. Last lap round, even with Shaman Mendes making a move on Kevin Samrajiva, he was still almost 6/10 quicker than Denan Abesekra in clean air. That just goes to show just how dominant Shaman Mendes is at the moment. Kevin Samrajiva now getting caught up by Denan Abesekra. It's a Ferrari 2004 livery, if I'm not mistaken. Being caught up by the Marlboro-inspired livery of the Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost days on the car of Denan Abesekra. So a McLaren-Ferrari rivalry here in iRacing, regardless of the fact that they are all iRacing spec F4 cars. You see Denan Abesekra catching up with Kevin Samrajiva. Kevin having a bit of a moment, and it looks like Kavin Rajapaksa has also been unable to take part in this feature race. He will be losing quite a few crucial points which he could have obtained from taking part in this feature race, as there are more points for the feature race than the sprint races that took place earlier on in the day. Kevin Samrajiva can once again follow through behind Denan Abesekra and potentially gain as much track knowledge as possible around Virginia Tech, as this is a very, very tough circuit to master. As you can see, Kevin Samrajiva having a moment, having an off-road excursion once again, but managing to hold on to it very well. You're right back with I Am Fazal on debut, doing very, very well. He had a bit of a scruffy first 2 sprint races, however he's kept his nose clean, done an incredible maneuver to avoid the crash of Savi Ratnayaka and Angelo Sinaratna, and he was able to keep himself in the podium position running. As we ride further back on the pecking order, we see Brian Pereira after his pit stop, I believe after yet another first lap incident. I believe that's 3 first corner first lap incidents for Brian Pereira this weekend. An abysmal couple of races for Brian Pereira, it must be said, as just unfortunate that he's been involved in all these first lap incidents. And notices Rian Bukatu has DNF from the race with technical issues. That is, of course, the standard with sim racing, as these are all on PCs. There is always the potential for a software malfunction, as is the case with potentially a physical engine malfunction in the real world. As we see I Am Fazal coming up behind Kevin Samrajiva. The only overtaking we're getting right now in this race It's the lap cars being lapped. Oh my goodness, that was a big, big moment for I Am Fazal as Kevon Samardzivo keeping it very, very close to I Am is in a good position, and I doubt he would have wanted to have a race-ending incident in such a manner. But nonetheless, I Am has tackled one obstacle. He's now back behind Denon Abesekra, but the gap to Denon is opening up. It's about 8.1 seconds now. The gap between Denon Abesekra and Shama Mendes is sitting at 11 seconds, and I believe we have a pit stop further back from potentially Savirat Nayaka. Yes, Savirat Nayaka just coming out of the pits. He's made his one mandatory pit stop. Angelo Senaratna, who he had a collision with. I believe Angelo has also made his pit stop, unless of course Angelo is running with some severe damage, which is hindering his pace. His last lap was a 150.6. Well, his last lap was a 150.7, his best being a 150.6. It is yet to be seen if that is just a pace issue or if it is just an issue with his car as well. Tehanaranga having a bit of a lonely race here, involved in big incident, locking up, involved in an incident this race as well, but I believe he's also made his pit stop. He could be in a decently good position to maybe snatch P2 in this race after the pit stops of Denon Abesekra and Iham, because he's only 13.5 seconds behind Iham in P3, so everything is still to play for. And now it just seems to be a waiting game for all the drivers. So we return to Virginia Tech with Shama Mendes leading the way out front with a monstrous 14.3 second lead. Very soon he'll be able to enter the pits and come out still in the lead of this race. It is an absolutely dominant display at the moment. But I believe we have a bit of an incident from Kevon Samardziva up ahead, as Kevon Samardziva actually taking the long lap exit road. Having a little bit of fun out there. Currently lonely in P8 at the moment, but Kevon taking the secondary pit lane here at Virginia Tech. Always a sight for sore eyes, is Kevon Samardziva, keeping things entertaining here in somewhat of a stalemate race at the moment, as everybody has had the gaps opened out. So half the grid has pitted at the moment, half the grid having not pitted. So we need to find some way to find ourselves some entertainment this race. Although I'm sure it is anything but boring for these drivers, as the amount of concentration you need for this circuit is impeccable. I tried driving the circuit actually. Let's just say it was not a very successful attempt. There might have been one lap out of every 6 laps that was completed successfully without touching the grass. So I sincerely applaud all these drivers for being able to keep it within the grey lines, keeping it between the white lines for as long as they are. Albeit having their moments, having their incident moments as well, but keeping it cool, calm and collected for the most part. As we see Kevon Samardziva being caught by Tehan Eranga. Tehan will be hoping for a smooth transition back ahead of the lap car. Tehanaranga is around 12.4 seconds behind Iham. Iham is also catching Denon very, very slowly. Oh, there's a bit moment for Kevan Samarjiva. Will he take the escape road once again? Oh, he does not take the escape road. It's quite upsetting. As we can see, that is the second pit lane here at Virginia Tech. And as we were saying, Tehanaranga is catching Iham Fazal. The gap is now down to 12.1 seconds, but at the same time, Iham is catching Denon Abesekra in P2. So all these mini battles, although the gaps are quite large at the moment, these battles could come to life later on in the race. We are now just about reaching the halfway mark of this 30-minute feature race. Another man who's had a bit of a quiet race this weekend, as we see Kevan Samarjiva doing a little bit more lawn mowing out of the final corner. Another man with a bit of a quiet race has been Brian Pereira. Brian Pereira had once again a first lap incident. Having pitted, repaired his car, he's now all the way back in P5 and looking good in a decent position down the inside of Kevan Samarjiva. Kevan sensibly moving out of the way of Brian Pereira. Brian has managed to find himself in a bit of a decent position here, P5, not too far off the likes of Tehanaranga or Kevan Samarjiva having a moment. Increasing his camera time at the moment, but nonetheless, as we were saying, Brian Pereira doing a really good job at the moment, keeping things cool in P5, lost a lot of time on the opening lap, but was able to claw back some time, set somewhat similar lap times to Shyama Mendes. It's a real shame that Brian has not been able to utilize this pace this weekend, as he is quite possibly the only man to be able to challenge Shyama Mendes this weekend, as he's done a 148.613 as his fastest lap, only 3/10 shy of Shyama Mendes, which is pretty close if you consider the fact that aside from Tehanaranga in 4th place, the next closest lap time to Shyama Mendes is a 149.5. As Shyama Mendes, as if hearing me, has literally gone and set a 148 flat, now 6/10 quicker than anything Brian Pereira has been able to set this weekend. That just goes to show the utter dominance of Shyama Mendes, and he's going to make it yet another clean sweep in an iRacing weekend once again. We've had a clean sweep from Brian Pereira at round 1 at Osherglen. We had a clean sweep at Okayama by the mighty Ivan David, and we are now looking to have a clean sweep by Shyama Mendes here at Virginia Tech. We look behind to see Angelo Senaratne and Savi Ratnayaka sort of converging on themselves. Savi has got past, so shall I say, Angelo has stayed ahead of Savi after the pit stop, so it looks like the slow pace by Angelo might have been an eventual pit stop for repairs. Savi Ratnayaka slowly starting to catch Angelo Senaratne, but very slowly. 3.6 seconds is the gap between Savi and Angelo. Angelo now catching Kevan Samarjiva. Angelo is typically the steward at most of the Speedway kart fight events. So Kevan Samarjiva weaving around. What is Kevan doing? Kevan is sort of, this will be very, very distracting for Angelo Senaratne, as Kevan is holding Angelo up significantly here. My goodness, that was very, very close stuff by Kevan Samarjiva. What was Kevan doing? That was very close, letting a bit of friendly banter between Kevan and Angelo, but not really the right time in the eyes of Angelo Senaratne, who is trying to pull away from Savi. If anything, that's actually helped Angelo pull away further, as Kevan having a big moment here. My goodness, riding over the curb. Will he be able to get it stopped in time? He has, if not quicker. It might be a new racing line discovered there. As I believe Denon Abesekra has entered the pits. He has done so. Denon has entered the pits. Will he be able to leave the pits ahead of Iham Fazal, who I believe Iham is, taking a position away from Denon. I believe Iham might have actually made a mistake here, because Tehanaranga is definitely closer to Iham than before, so I believe Iham might have made a mistake somewhere. That gap has dropped down from 12 seconds to just under 4 seconds now. This might put Iham's podium aspirations in a bit of a sticky situation here, as it's not looking very likely, with even Denon Abisekra might be in a bad position to hold his podium. Oh, big power slide. Oh, there is a big moment for Iam Fazal. That there definitely goes his podium aspirations. Iam has had a big spin from P2 on the road. Brian Pereira, after a first lap pit stop, is now looking to maybe take the place back and be in the podium running. But now this is a fight for position, Brian. This is not a lapping situation like was the case with Kevin. Oh, Brian going down the inside. There is a big moment for Iam Fazal. Will he be able to rejoin the track safely? He does just that, but will there be a bit of a steward's inquiry into that move there? It looked clean. It looked like there was no severe contact. But did Brian just move across on the line of Iam Fazal? That was a big moment. Iam losing a whole chunk of places in one lap alone. Unfortunate stuff for Iam, who's doing incredibly well, but just losing out there. And so Iam Fazal now makes his pit stop from P4. Denon Abisekra is promoted back up into P4, but now it's a question of whether Brian Pereira and Tejano Aranda require pit stops. I don't believe they do. And so once again, Denon coming so close, yet so far, as he's not able to get, it doesn't look likely to get the podium here at Virginia in the feature race. But it's never over until they cross the finish line. Until they cross the checkered flag. As once again the gaps have significantly opened out. Things have somewhat silenced themselves. Iam Fazal, after his pit stop, has found himself all the way down in P7. Those little spins he committed have just resulted in unfortunate sequence of events, as Kevin Samarjiva looks to have had a big spin, kicking up a whole bunch of smoke, but lets Iam Fazal through safely. And so we will ride on board with Shyama Mendes, who comes in for his mandatory stop. Now it is crucial to see, yes, that was a very quick stop. Pit stop time here at Virginia Tech, not too long, as there's a big moment for Kevin Samarjiva once again, increasing screen time as the race goes along. He's just been struggling for pace, as I believe he might have an issue here. He might actually be beached in the sand, struggling to get out. Come on. Wait to see. Oh, Kevin Samarjiva has had to respawn in the pits. So I believe, yes, he was somewhat beached in a bit of an odd position there. So now it's crucial to see whether Tejano Aranda does need to make a pit stop. If he does, will he be able to hold his lead? Oh, well, not should I say his lead. Will he be able to hold the podium ahead of Denon Abisekra if he was required to make a pit stop? That would be the crucial point to see. Nonetheless, Brian Pereira, we know for a fact Brian has made a pit stop, and I believe Tehan has also made his pit stop. If they don't have to pit again, Tehan and Brian have found themselves in some significantly positive positions here. Brian setting a fastest lap of a 148.3. The timings are getting faster and faster as the race progresses. We are down into the final 6 minutes of this race, around maybe 4 to 5 laps left here at Virginia Tech. We're closing in on the dying moments. Looks like there might have been a moment for Denon Abisekra. He is going very slowly. He might have had a moment, a bit of a spin out. As we were saying, Tejano Aranda could be looking in a good position to hold station ahead of Denon. If Denon's made a mistake here, it looks much more likely for that to be the case. Yes, Dynamic Saker 3 seconds slower on that last lap. He has definitely had an issue there. As Kavan Samarjiva exits the pits, but right ahead there is a big battle here between Savi and Angelo. It looks like Savi has taken the place away from Angelo Senaratna. Savi moves up into P5. Will Angelo be able to hold on? It doesn't look like it. Savi's starting to run away with it now. This is the closest battle on track at the moment, but nonetheless, it's like there might have been a bit of a moment for Brian Pereira up front. Minor yellow flags waved for a split second. It could have potentially just been a bit of an off-road excursion, dipping some wheels into the grass. Angelo setting his new personal best lap time of 1:48.2. It was 1.4 seconds quicker than Tehan Eranga on that last lap. Angelo is slowly Brian is slowly closing in on Tehan Eranga. How about this battle? Is Angelo able to make any impact on Savi Ratnayaka? It looks like he's just a little bit too far away. As if on cue, Shyama Mendes sets a new fastest lap of a 1:47.819, officially quicker lap times than the qualifying session this morning. This is some significantly dominant stuff on display from Shyama Mendes, making it 3 from 3 here at Virginia Tech. More often than not, it seems to be the case that when a driver gets into the sweet spot of a circuit, it's very hard to dethrone them from that sweet spot. It's Kavan Samarjiva having another off-road excursion. Will he be able to find his way back onto the circuit here? He went significantly wide there, but he's able to rejoin the circuit just in time as we see a big lunge from Angelo Senaratna. We caught the final glimpses of that big lunge. Big lockups from both drivers, but they've been able to keep it clean. There's already been one incident between these two RD3 racing drivers today. Will they be able to complete this battle without any more contact? So we will stick with this battle as although Angelo Senaratna seems to be struggling with the pace, there are moments such as that where Savi Ratnayaka has some off-road excursions that his pace down the straight will now be compromised. Will Angelo Senaratna be able to take the place down up the hill with slipstream? He's in the draft of Savi Ratnayaka with slipstream. He dives to the inside. Does he have enough of a run to make a move down the inside? He thinks better of it as Savi closes off the inside there. Smart battling. All the while, out front, Brian Pereira is catching Tehan Eranga with just under 2 minutes to go. We might be seeing Brian and Tehan entering, or we will be seeing 2 more laps after this. Oh, this is close. Will Savi Ratnayaka be able to hold off Angelo Senaratna? A few defensive moves left and right here. Angelo Senaratna will go around the outside. Nothing doing though. Will he be able to switch back with this long right-hander? He isn't, but he will stick with Savi Ratnayaka. 2 laps left in this race. Will we be able to see a move from Angelo Senaratna late on in this race? Big moment for Savi Ratnayaka. Savi is quicker in this first sector, but Angelo just seems to catch back that gap in the second and third sectors of this circuit. All the while, the gap at the front, we keep an eye on the gap at the front. Brian Pereira is closing in on Tehan Eranga. It's 3.1 seconds now. Tehan maybe just making a few errors here and there, having a bit of a lapse in judgment in certain places. Can he hold on though? How about this for some battling? This is incredibly close stuff. Brian Pereira under 3 seconds now. They're coming around to start the final lap of the race. Shyama Mendes crosses the line to start the final lap of this feature race. We've only seen 16 laps so far. as I believe Kevon Samardziva having a bit of a moment out front, or just coming out of the pits, should I say. Brian Pereira is closing in all the while on Tehaneranga. It's 2.8 seconds now. However, the gap further back between Savi and Angelo stays now at around a second's gap. However, out front, it's been complete dominance from Shyama Mendes. Kevon Samardziva having a bit of a moment here. Tehaneranga will not want to be seeing this in his POV as Kevon gets out of the way of Tehaneranga. Oh, that was close. That was very close stuff. Well done by Kevon, letting him through in a very difficult position there, being the windy nature of this section of the circuit. He lets through both the front runners as the gap between Angelo and Savi is now once again just under a second. But there seems to be an incident further back. Is it an incident? Nope, it's just a little bit of an off-track moment for Savi Ratnayaka. That battle is getting incredibly close, but we will ride on board with the man of the hour. It is Shyama Mendes who has driven his way to the race win. There seems to be a move between Savi, and there's a big incident between Savi and Angelo once again, but we have to ride back with Shyama Mendes. Shyama Mendes wins 3 out of 3 at Virginia Tech, and he takes maximum points heading into the second last round of this CMSC Race at Home iRacing Championship. Tehaneranga will hold off Brian Pereira to finish in P2. And there's a big spin for Kevon Samardziva. Further back, I Am Fazal and Angelo Senaratne will go into combat. Denan Abesekra will come home in P4. Savi Ratnayaka will limp home in P5 after a last lap collision with Angelo Senaratne once again. But who will finish P6 between Ayab and Angelo? It looks like Ayab will get the run on Angelo, but Angelo can potentially hold a late braking maneuver. No, it looks like Ayab has just been able to get ahead of Angelo. Angelo, 2 collisions with Savi Ratnayaka. It is yet to be seen once again of who was at fault for that collision, but it looks to be I Am Fazal who will finish things off in P6, followed by Brian Pereira, Angelo Senaratne in P7. Oh, and I Am Fazal letting Angelo Senaratne through at the line, potentially allowing Angelo maybe championship points. There might be some sportsmanship in that moment there. And now we see the best part of the race events, albeit with a whole bunch of crashes, with a whole bunch of incidents. All the drivers will still find some time to involve themselves in some donuts. A wonderful sight to see. However, some drivers enjoying these donuts more than others. Angelo Senaratne, albeit with all the incidents, still finding the time to make a few marks in the lawn section of this circuit, and now on the tarmac. So what a couple of races we've seen here in Virginia Tech. We will look to potentially see more of this similar action in the next round in just a week's time. But it is Shyama Mendes who takes home maximum points here at Virginia Tech. We see some donuts from both Denan and Angelo Senaratne. Thank you very much for tuning in to this Virginia Tech race weekend, and we look forward to seeing you